on, everybody? We're back with a brand new video, and so I'm gonna dive right into today's topic, and that revolves around the recent comments that Charles Barkley made on Inside the NBA. And while on a lot of issues we definitely don't see eye to eye, but when it comes to a lot of what he has to say that pertains to the game of basketball, more times than not, I find myself in agreement with what Chuck has to say. So he was talking about, of course, when teams loses, they want to fire these coaches and whatnot, and all of these, and blame the coaches, it's the coaches' fault, all this stuff. We typically see that as most recently with the Lakers, and we know why. But I'm not going to prattle on anymore. I'm going to let you hear what Charles Barkley had to say about firing coaches, in particular, both Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel, who have been firmly under the gun of losing their job. So here is what Charles Barkley had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, so funny story. This was like the other video I was telling you about. I had to try to record 4 times. So I went ahead and did my whole commentary on the comments that you just heard, and come to find out, none of it took. So here we are, take 2. So hopefully I can remember what I said, and maybe I can even say it in a more condensed fashion. But getting back into things, and I got to be honest, I agree with a lot of what Charles Barkley said. I thought, and I have always thought, that it seems like with Darvin Ham, it seems like they've been itching to find a reason to fire him for the past year, and it's ridiculous. Because here's the thing: is Coach Ham a perfect coach? Well, no. I mean, no one is. And the funny thing is the things that I hear, the complaints about, I listen to fan bases from so many other teams, good and bad, ironically. And a lot of their complaints are the same. You hear them talking about lineups. They always question the coach about this lineup here, that lineup there. Certain situational moves that should have been made that they didn't make, or whatever the case may be. I mean, there's a lot of commonalities in the complaints of a lot of fan base. So if Darvin Ham is so terrible, then there's about 20 other teams that have terrible coaches then, because a lot of these complaints are the same. But and I hear some of the players, they don't listen to Darvin Ham and all this. And here's the thing. I'm a firm believer in that, in terms of those interactions and how the team perceives or moves with him. It comes down to a couple things. The top, in terms of your leaders on the team within that locker room, and then within the organization, the front office. Because here's the thing, and I'm just talking about Coach Ham first. Because if we're talking about the Lakers, and you look at the best players on that team, well, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, we know that LeBron has a documented history of being dismissive, disrespectful, and flat out ignoring coaches. Whether we want to go back to Paul Silas, and during his first run in Cleveland, we can go to what he tried to do with Eric Spoelstra in Miami, and I'm going to come back to that. And then when he went back to Cleveland, we saw the utter, flagrantly cavalier, pun intended, disregarding of Coach David Black. A coach who's internationally respected and won globally. I had never seen that level of disrespect from a player to a coach. The only thing I could think of that comes to mind is maybe Robert Horry and Danny Ainge. And for those of you who may not be old enough to remember, Robert Horry at one time was a Phoenix Sun. Danny Ainge was the coach. They had some words, and he chucked, and when I say he, I mean Robert Horry, chucked the towel in his face right there on the bench during a game. So those are the types of things, that I'm talking about. in terms of levels of disrespect that I saw. He didn't necessarily throw a towel on his face, but if you would watch some of those Cavaliers games, it was clear as day that he was not listening. He wasn't paying David Blatt any mind, and it ultimately it resulted in him getting fired. We saw once he went to Los Angeles with Luke Walton, and I'm going to come back to that as well. And then eventually with Frank Vogel, and now Darvin Ham. So, when your best player, when your best player is flagrantly and openly showing disrespect to your coach, that's unfortunately is going to trickle down, for better or worse, to the rest of the players. Unless you have a front office in place, because remember when he tried that junk in Miami, I'm gonna say Pat Spoelstra, Pat Riley laid the smackdown on that, and then you didn't have that to deal with as an issue. So that's going to play a role again, which goes back into what I was talking about, the front office. The Lakers have, by not empowering Darvin Ham to be the coach that he needs to be in terms of having his back, they've cut him off at the knees. And so that emboldens the players to show this type of flagrant disrespect and disregarding of coaches. And if you're going to not let the coaches do their job, then why even hire them? But and it's the same thing with Frank Vogel. You come into a Phoenix team, yes, they've got 3 name brand superstars, but cut off. But what I was saying is, yeah, you got these 3 superstars, and on the surface, it looks good. But the issue with them is they gave up their depth, they gave up their defensive ability, in order to get these guys, and it's showing up. And because they're not a good defensive team, those guys have to be clicking on all cylinders. And if they're not, well, you see the results. And Kevin Durant has as great as he has been, as great as he is, I mean, he is 35, 36. There's going to be some regression as the clock continues to move forward. So, you've got to look at that. Bradley Beal, I think, is, as they like to say, on the wrong side of 30. So, I mean, you've got, yes, this name brand team, but, I mean, they're not a good defensive team. And so you get what you got. If those guys can't outscore a team, then this is what's going to happen. And it got put on display in the playoffs. So, I mean, is it Frank Vogel's fault that Anthony Edwards was dunking all over Kevin Durant? I don't think it was. I mean, was it his fault that the Phoenix players can't stop a nosebleed? I mean, and after 1 year, it just doesn't make any sense that we just want to fire coaches so quickly. You don't give them time. You don't give them time to shape and build the team according to the vision that they have in place. It's like you're changing these coaches like you change underwear. And I mean, this is not 2K. It's crazy, But yeah, I like I said, I agree with Charles Barkley. I think both would be jumping the gun, because even if you let them both go in a year or two, the fan bases will be mad at the new guy and saying some of the exact same things, talking about the lineups, why don't you call a timeout here, and all this type stuff. It's never ending. There's never gonna be a perfect coach. You're always gonna have some sort of issues. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. I've prattled on about this long enough, but tell us, what do you think of the comments of Sir Charles, and if they do make a move, and I'm speaking of both the Suns and the Lakers, who do you think they should bring in? Let us know in the comment section, and let's have a conversation about it. But as always, thank you for spending a few moments with me. We'll be back with more videos very soon. And as always, tell the ones that you love them. Peace.